Hi there, I'm Laurel from George Jones Software. This video is part of the recording of one of our user group sessions. In the session, we demoed the production component driver, a new feature for Deltanji source control. It enables highly granular management of interoperability productions with tight integration into the management portal. This allows configuration items within a production to be managed as first-class software components. We hope you enjoyed the demo.
I want to start by just recapping on the architecture of Deltanji. At its heart is our source control engine, which handles all the versioning and audit trail and so on of the items you're managing. And it's also where the workflow component is integrated, and that's the bit that you define using transfer routes to say what is allowed to be moved from where to where. So that's the core of Deltanji in the center. Underneath that, there are a number of things that we call component drivers, which are essentially the logic that Deltanji has, that Deltanji uses to be able to access all the things that it manages. In the simple case, it's files, but it can also be inter-systems class definitions, it can be routines, it can be business process rules, it can be HL7. We have a whole library of these for different kinds of things that you want to manage. And then up above Deltanji is the client integrations, and you're probably familiar with our VS Code integration and with our Studio integration, and of course the browser user interface that we use every day to work with Deltanji. We also have an integration for the management portal. So over on the right-hand side, there are two new items, and this is what I want to introduce today. One is a component driver for configuration items in productions. This is an area which has always been problematic for users with large productions, and so we've focused on addressing that problem. We've also created, to complement that, a client integration for the production page within the management portal. So it's different from the integration that uses the source control hooks for the main part of the management portal. And this is specific to the production configuration page. These two new components work hand in hand to manage configuration items within a production in much the same way as you would manage, or I should say in exactly the same way as you would manage any other component that is under Deltanji source control. So the reason we've had to do something special for production classes is because the way that they're implemented is as a monolithic class definition. So everything to do with the production class, all the services, all the processes, all the operations, all the configuration of those items is defined within one Xdata block within a production class. And this is problematic when you start to get large productions with more than a handful of configuration items. The moment you start to get the situation where there's more than one person working on configuration items or more than one team working on areas of a production, then you start to get the inevitable conflicts where somebody's got the production class checked out and somebody else wants to make a change. And with very large productions, it's totally untenable to work that way. There's far too many conflicts. So what we've done is for the purposes of source control, we've split the production class into its multiple items, components. So each configuration item, each service, and each process and each operation is treated by Deltanji as a separate component. And this gives you much greater granularity. And by having that higher granularity over the items in the production class, you avoid the issue of having conflicts and collisions between people wanting to edit the same thing at the same time. So what we have here is three tabs, which are connections to three different servers. We have our development server, we have our test server, and we have our live server. And I'll just go back and show you how these are arranged. So here we have a development server, we have a test server, and we have a live server. And the general kind of workflow is that you check out to development, do some changes there, move it over to the test server for testing. When it passes testing, you check it in, and then you deploy it to your live server. So that's the workflow that we're using. This is, by Deltanji standards, a fairly simple, well, it's a very simple workflow. Most real workflows are considerably more complicated than this. But for the purposes of this demo, I just wanted to give you an idea of how our workflow looks. So back on here, if we go and look at our live system, then you'll see that we've got our live system running and everything's looking fine in there. You'll see that our test system looks the same, and over in our development system, you'll see that we have a slightly different picture. We have a number of a lot more components in our development system than we do in our live system. And these are items that are being worked on. You'll see that because we're using the Deltanji client integration, these items are color-coded, and the color coding indicates that these are checked out and currently being worked on. So what we can do, if you look at these, you'll see that well, first of all, if we look at one of these that's not checked out and go and look at the settings, let's look at the file service, you'll see that these settings are read-only, and we can't actually change anything in here. If we want to change something, then we have to go and check it out. So if I wanted to change this particular service, then I would go and do a checkout, and that's where this button comes in. So when I click on one of these items, the color of that button changes, and that indicates the status of the item within Deltanji. And if I want to check it out, I click on this button, and it will pull up the standard Deltanji checkout interface, and we can say pick a change request. There's one that I prepared earlier, and do a checkout, and you'll see there that that has changed color, and that now indicates that it's checked out. So now I can, if I wish to, I can make a change here. I won't do that because that will make things go wrong, but if I make a change, I can then do a carry on with the rest of the workflow and do something like a check-in. But before I do a check-in, I actually want to do a transfer to our test environment. So if I do this and then confirm that, then that will have transferred that component over to our test environment. If I transfer one of these guys that's new, then you'll see it appear over there. So over on our test service, if we do a refresh, then we'll see that that service has just appeared over there. So once we've done that, if we're happy with that in testing, then we can do a check-in, which we can do like that. And that now changes color back to white. And if we want to now deploy it to production, then we can again use the deploy option here to deploy it from the repository over to the live system. So we'll do that. And if we switch over to the live system and refresh our production, you'll see that that has now appeared as a service in there. And it's disabled, but when we're ready, we can then click on the enable button and wherever that is. Click on that and enable it, and then we can it'll go away and become operational. So that completes my demo of that. So what I've shown you is the use of the configuration item component as a way of managing the individual configuration items within a production, and the use of the client integration for the management portal as a way of being able to interact with Deltanji to actually make these things happen. And the reason we've done this is to be able to manage these items at a higher level of granularity and not treat our production class as a single monolithic entity.
Thank you for watching. If you want to find out more about Deltanji source control, or if you've got any questions following the demo, our contact details are on the screen now. Thanks very much.